Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Sayyidina wa habibina al-Mustafa Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Okay, alhamdulillah, we're starting week 15, inshallah ta'ala. And so as we mentioned in the previous classes, each week we'll read from the beginning of the text, and then we'll read right up to the point where we're going to cover today, inshallah. So does anyone want to read? Chapter 1.
I will. I was
I
quiet
couldn't find my book. I was trying to find it.
Okay.
because I was like, I don't want to keep on being the representative,
Yeah.
As soon as I find it, I got you.
Okay.
Okay. You come to class not ready. Okay.
Listen,
Don't come for her like that. She's
I got my notepad.
She's here.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا إله إلا هو وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك ورسولك النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله. Chapter 1. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful. All praise belongs to Allah, Lord of the worlds. A praise that matches His gifts and equals His increases. And may Allah send blessings upon our Master Muhammad and upon his family and companions. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The Messenger of Allah, upon whom be peace, said, seeking knowledge is an obligation for every Muslim, male and female. And he said, upon him be peace. Whoever takes a path searching for knowledge, Allah will lead him along a path to the garden, al-Jannah. The topics discussed in this book have mainly been abridged from the books of Hujjat al-Islam al-Ghazali. It is our hope that whoever knows them and acts upon them will be placed by Allah among the people of true knowledge, outwardly and inwardly, and success is from Allah. The pillars of Islam. The pillars of Islam are 5. Bearing witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah. Doing the salat, giving the zakat, fasting Ramadan, making Hajj, pilgrimage to the house for whoever is able to. The above are to be done with sincerity and belief. Whoever is not sincere is a munafiq, hypocrite, and whoever does not believe with his heart is a kafir. Faith, Iman. The reality of Iman is that you are convinced that Allah exists and that He, the Exalted, is one, without partner, likeness, or similarity. Nothing is like him, and he is the all-hearing and all-seeing. He created the heavens and the earth, death and life, obedience and disobedience, health and sickness, and the entire universe and what it contains. He created human beings and their actions and determined their provisions and their lifespans. There can be no increase or decrease in these appointed things. Nothing happens except by his decree, qada, that it will happen, and his determining qadar, and his will, irada. He, the Exalted, is living and all-knowing. He wills and is able. He is speaker, hearer, and seer. He is knower of the treachery of the eye and what is hidden in the chests. He knows all secrets and that which is even more hidden. He is the creator of everything and is the one, the subduer. He, the Exalted, sent our Master Muhammad, his servant and messenger, to the whole of mankind for their guidance, so that they could perfect their lives and complete their return to him. He helped him with clear miracles. You must also be convinced that he, upon whom be peace and blessings, was trustful in every fact which he conveyed to us from Allah, whether concerning the traverse, sirat, the balance, mizan, the pool, hawd, and other matters of the next world and the barzakh, including the questioning by the 2 angels and the punishment and bliss in the grave. The Quran and all the books that Allah sent down are true. The angels are true. The garden is true. The fire is true. And so is everything else about which our Master Muhammad, upon him be peace, informed us. Chapter 2, Worship. Hey, Sasay.
Assalamu alaikum.
You want me to do chapter 2 or you want to finish? I found my book.
Bring it on there.
Assalamu alaikum, sweetie.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, yeah. So chapter 2, Naila, you want to read it?
Yes. Chapter 2, Worship. Prayer, purity. The obligations furud of wudu are 6. 1. Intention niyah. 2. Washing the face. The limits of the face are lengthwise from the place of the normal hairline of the head to the jawbone and in the width from ear to ear. Washing both hands and arms up to and including the elbows. Wiping part of the skin of the head or the hair that covers it. Washing the 2 feet up to and including the ankles. Performing the actions in this order. If one is in the state of janaba because of sexual intercourse or the emission of sexual fluid mani during sleep or otherwise, it is necessary to wash the whole body with the intention of removing janaba. The emission of anything from the 2 waist passages, front or back, nullifies the wudu. Wudu is also lost upon losing control of one's intellect during sleep or otherwise, unless one sleeps sitting down with one's seat firmly fixed on the ground. Touching the private parts, front or back, of any human, whether oneself or someone else, and whether adult or child, with the palm of the hand or the inside of the fingers, nullifies wudu, even if it be one's own child or a dead person. The touching of the skin of an adult male by an unrelated female and vice versa without any barrier nullifies the wudu. However, touching the nails, hair, or teeth do not nullify the wudu. The validity of salah is dependent on the following: awareness of the entrance of the time, either with certainty, yaqeen, or because of working it out, ijtihad, or an overwhelmingly strong supposition, galabat zon, because if you make salat with doubt, it is not a valid prayer. Awareness of the qibla, covering the aura with a permitted clean cloth, and the removal of impurity from the clothes, body, and place of prayer. And it is necessary to pray the obligatory fard salat standing up if one is able to do so. The salat, obligations of the salat. These are intention, niyyah, entering the prayer by saying Allahu Akbar, God is most great, accompanied by the intention. The reading of the Fatiha, beginning with the words Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The 14 points of stress, tashdidat, and not pronouncing a za instead of a za, for there is no za sound in the Fatiha. And then bowing, ruku. In this, it is necessary to lean forward so as to be able to rest the hands on the knees. Then making the necessary pause, tumanina, so that all the limbs come to rest, and then returning to the upright position, itidal, where pushing for a few moments is also necessary. Then prostration, sajda, twice, and sitting between the 2 prostrations. Pausing is necessary in all of these. One must fulfill the above obligations in each rakat. The first tashahhud and sitting during this part of the salat is sunnah. The second tashahhud and sitting during it are compulsory. The prayer on the Prophet ﷺ, his family and companions after the tashahhud, but before the salam, is a compulsion, as it is the sending of salam. The minimum salam is assalamu alaikum. The minimum tashahhud that fulfills the compulsion is at-tayyatu lillahi salamu alayka ayyuha nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu salamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. The minimum prayer on the Prophet, upon him be peace, is Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. One should do the sunan, they are many. It is also required that one humbles oneself with total sincerity, ikhlas, making it an action solely for Allah alone. Concentration, hudur, is also required. Hudur is being aware of what one is saying and doing. Submissiveness, khushu, is also required. Khushu is the stillness of the limbs, concentration of the heart, and pondering upon and trying to understand what is being read. Allah accepts salat according to the amount of hudur. Showing off, riyah, which is acting for the sake of people in prayer and at all other times, is forbidden. Acts that invalidate the salat. Deliberately speaking invalidates the salat, even if it be only 2 letters, as does a large amount out of forgetfulness. A large amount of action also invalidates the salat. For example, 3 extra substantial movements: eating, drinking, exposing part of the aura without covering it immediately, and the appearance of najasa, if it is not removed immediately without holding it. If a worshiper goes ahead of the imam by 2 integral elements, and likewise, if he falls behind the imam by 2 integral elements without legitimate reason, his salat is also invalid. Prayer behind a non-believer, a woman, or someone of mixed gender is not valid. The Juma, Friday prayer. Friday midday prayer in congregation is an obligation for every Muslim who is male, free, resident in the locale, and not excused by a legal exemption such as sickness or rain. Among the conditions of the Juma are the 2 sunnahs al-Qutbatain, the integral elements Arkan, and of the 2 sermons are Hamd, sending the greetings upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, calling people towards piety, Tawa, the reciting of at least 1 verse of Quran in one of the 2 sermons, and praying for the believers in the last one. It is necessary for the one delivering the 2 sermons to do so while standing in a state of tahara and with his aura covered. He must sit between the 2 sermons and should pause longer than the normal pause for salat. There should be no interruption between the first and second sermons or the second sermon and prayer. Establishing the congregational prayer and the funeral prayer, janazah, are communal obligations, fard kifaya. The 2 Eids, the 2 eclipse prayers, and the witr prayers are all well-established sunan, as are the rawatib of salat. The duha and the tarawih are sunan and bring great blessing and reward. Fasting. Fasting, Psalm, is the 3rd pillar of Islam. It is the well-known abstinence, but with certain specific characteristics. Among them are making a daily intention during the preceding night and abandoning all things which break the fast, including food, drink, sexual intercourse, masturbation, and self-induced vomiting. Among the things which perfect the fast is the refraining of the limbs from things which Allah the Exalted dislikes. The 7 limbs which need to be restrained will be discussed later. It has been said in a hadith that 5 things nullify the act of the fasting person: lies, backbiting, slander, false oaths, and looking with desire. Among the things which perfect the fast are hastening to break the fast with halal food and not eating a great deal. It is good to fast often, especially on the days that Islam has considered special. Allah knows best, and the success is from Him. Zakat. Zakat of assets. Zakat is the 4th pillar of Islam. Therefore, every Muslim must know the type of possessions on which it is compulsory. These are livestock, na'am, gold and silver, naqid, trade goods, tijara, buried treasure, rikaz, gold and silver mines, maidan, and mu'asharat, which are seed crops and fruits. There is no zakat on animals other than livestock grazing on public land. A precondition of the zakat becoming obligatory is the passing of 1 lunar year, which is also a condition for money and trade goods. Another condition is that they reach the nisab, the lower limit above which zakat becomes obligatory, fard. The amount that has to be paid on money trade goods is 2.5%. On crops and fruits grown by irrigation, the zakat is 5%. If the land is not irrigated, it is 10%. Zakatul fitr. The zakatul fitr has to be paid by every Muslim who possesses more than his actual needs and the needs of his dependents on the Eid day and the evening preceding it. Its amount of 4 mud of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is the amount of 4 mud of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Intention is required for all above mentioned types of zakat. It is not permitted to give zakat or zakatul fitr except to a Muslim who is characterized by one of the 8 characteristics, such as being a poor or destitute person and is not a hishami or a mutalibi, nor their freed slaves. It is necessary to pay all of these groups. And we stop there, right?
My mic was off.
Yeah, that's I can't
Okay.
hear.
Yeah, we stopped there last week, so we'll just do a quick review before we go to the next section.
Okay.
Okay, so quickly, what does the word zakat mean? The linguistic meaning we covered.
Oh yeah.
I don't have that.
Well, Sister Khadija, you wasn't here last. Well, we didn't have it last week. No, well, you did. You were in class the week before.
Don't do that.
Okay. All
I
right.
know. I just didn't get a chance to. I didn't get a chance to write the notes out.
So linguistically, zakat means to grow or to purify.
That's right.
You remember
I
that?
don't have that. No,
Yeah.
I don't have that written down. And
Yeah, we did. We did cover that.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's what the zakat does for when we give
We gave a linguistic meaning. We said the growth, purification, it also means to praise. Like when someone tries to give themselves self-praise. All right, but the legal meaning, what does it mean, zakat, with the 5 pillars?
That's the chapter. That's the obligatory that you give like after Ramadan.
Zakat al-fitr, but zakat itself means basically, in the legal sense, is to take something from a person's wealth.
Mm.
All right, and so then there's general, and then there's a specific type of wealth that you take. All right, so who has to pay zakat?
Those who are able to.
Yeah, there's 3 categories we mentioned.
Hold on.
The first condition, who is zakat obligatory on?
The believer.
Muslim. Yeah, you got to be Muslim,
Yes.
a free person, and what else?
A free person, and you have to be mukallaf.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm looking for. Basically, I'm looking for something else.
For the person who has more than what they need.
Where they have a specific ownership of wealth, meaning you can't give zakat on something that you don't own. All right. So in the Shafi school, when he mentions about livestock in the book, the Shafi school, it talks about 3 kinds of livestock we mentioned, and in our school is just those 3.
Camel, cattle.
Well, it's 4. I'm sorry.
What do you mean?
Camel, cattle, sheep, and
Goats.
okay. All right. And then we talked about gold and silver trade for a person's business. Rikaz is a buried treasure that if someone was to happen to find that, they would have to pay zakat on it. Then he also mentioned something that's not common, which is the ma'adan, or gold and silver mining. And then mu'asharat is, which means 1/10 of the grains, dates, and raisins that a person may have. So when we talked about livestock, what is the numbers for livestock? Well, before that, we talked about what is nisab.
The threshold amount a person has to fulfill the obligation.
Okay. Did you just read that, or you?
I read it from my notes.
It's a review. You're not supposed to look at your notes.
I know that was the rule. Oh, my fault.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Well, as long as you can run it off, And so, what is the nisab for a person who has livestock?
Can I read it from my notes?
You might as well.
5 camels, 30 cows, 40 sheep, or 40 goats.
Okay. And on paper money, how do you calculate zakat from paper money?
It's the percentage, right?
No, it's equivalent to the gold and silver.
Oh, the 20 dinar and the silver dirham.
Yeah. Do you remember what the monetary value we mentioned?
Yeah.
I mean, the market value changes. I think it's like daily or whatever. But the last one we
$10.
Huh?
I think it was $10 or something like that. That's the cattle fitter. Never mind.
No. It's when you're talking about you're paying the equivalent on paper money, it's equivalent to 20 dinars for gold and 200 dirham. Mm-hmm. And 1 dinar is 4.25 grams.
Which equals 2.97 grams.
That's for dirhams.
Okay.
All right. So last week, the week before, I think the gold was at how much did we say it was for? Whatever the market rate was. But I think it ended up that for the nisab would be about $4,000 in cash. That's what a person has to have of a threshold. And for silver, I forget the amount. I know it was like 61 cents per dirham, and each dirham is 2.97 grams. So maybe we could do that as a homework assignment. We could find what the market rate is for gold and silver, and transfer it over. And then we said in the Shafi school, there's different views from the ulama about paper money and actually doing gold and silver. So in our days, most of us don't trade in gold and silver. So the give zakat would be more is to because the nisab in the Shafi school is the dinar and the dirham. All right. And then we said the nisab amount. Somebody the question?
No.
Okay, the nisab amount.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Kind of off topic, but it goes with the class. So you saying in that episode of Sanford Son, when Fred and Lamont found that suitcase of money, if they would have paid the taxes, they could have kept it.
They not taxes, but they would have had to pay. Treasure. Well, no, because they wasn't Muslim.
Oh, mashallah.
Now they have been.
I don't know why that flashed. I don't know why that came up, but I was just
because we just watched it the other day.
Right.
They got a bag.
That was like 70 grand.
Yeah, 70. The guy said, "Man, you cost me 70 grand." Yeah, but let's see. So yeah, if they were Muslim, they would have to pay 2.5% on that because that would be considered like a lost treasure.
Listen, I'm just asking. You never know what a law may bring across your path.
Yeah, so if we ever find a bag, you gotta pay up. Just make sure you close the blinds and look outside, see if anybody sitting in the cars.
Done.
Inshallah.
And worst come to worst, call Smitty and what's the other cop name?
I'm not doing this.
I forgot his name. Smitty and I forgot. Mashallah.
Yeah. Smitty was a great translator too, wasn't he? Okay. So the nisab amount for the mu'asharat is so first, what is a mud?
Mud is like 2 handfuls of, I don't know, would it be like grain or barley or
and 4 muds makes a sa'a. So that's about 2.5 pounds or whatever. So when you pay the nisab amount for the mu'asharat for grains and stuff is 1 wax, and that's it's 60 sa'as. And it varies by volume and the type of crop. So for instance, like beans and stuff like that is different, like if you had cotton or something like that. All right. And what else did we cover? All right, so the nisab is the amount that you have to have for at least a year. So say, for instance, if you have it for 8 months or 9 months or 10 months, and then say if your nisab is, the paper amount is $4,000, if you use the gold, you're using the gold equivalent, the gold standard. And do you have to pay zakat?
No.
No, yeah, you have to have that for a year's time in your savings. All right, so we covered the week before last that a lot of us are really zakat eligible, you know, for the most part.
Yep.
Okay, then we talked about when zakatul fitr. When is zakatul fitr due?
The night before Eid,
Yeah.
all the way up until the next night.
Yeah, or even some in the Shafi school it says that you can even pay it at the beginning of the Ramadan. It's better to pay it, you know, you can pay it a few days before Ramadan ends. The best time is at the Fajr on the Eid day and before the Eid prayer. And it is disliked after that time, after the Eid prayer. And it's still considered zakatul fitr up until Dhuhr time, and impermissible after Maghrib of that day. So it won't be zakatul fitr. And then also you can't make the intention after the time of zakatul, at the time that you pay zakatul fitr. Like for instance, if you miss it and you be like, okay, I'm going to do it on another day, and you can't call that zakatul fitr. And what's the position in the Shafi school about whether you give foodstuffs or money?
It's food, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be staple items like rice, beans, or, and some scholars say
like grains and stuff.
Yeah, and it should be like whatever is the what do they call it? What is common with the people.
Mm-hmm.
No, so
I usually do grits, oatmeal, and rice.
All of those food staples, and as long as it meets the equivalent, which is 4 muds or 1 sa'a. So it's about 2.75 kilograms. All right. So then we talked about the categories of zakat recipients. How many are there?
Not being a good student this week. I'll get back on track. I was at a Sufi camp, so I was doing good. I was at a Sufi farm, so I'm doing good.
Okay. Oh, well, at least tell me where the number of zakat recipients, where is it found?
In the
Surah 9, ayat 60.
Yes, so it's 8 categories. So it's talking about the miskin and the slaves, and then winning people's hearts over, that kind of example. People who are working for like the Islamic State, like the collective funds, and the travelers, stuff like that. All right, so for instance, what if a person is interested in taking Shahada and you really want them to take them over to the next level? Are they zakat eligible?
No.
Yes.
Oh.
Because you're trying to win them over.
Yes.
Right.
So say if you're giving someone Shahada and they might be in a bad state, they are zakat eligible.
Yes, that makes sense.
Because you want if the intent is to win their hearts over to Islam and they are in need, then yeah. And also, what if a person is just struggling, you know, with their iman, you know, up and down? Are they zakat eligible?
Yes.
Yes. These are people who follow when it talks about winning over the hearts of people. Slaves who are trying to free themselves, that doesn't really apply too much in these days and times. And then we talked about people who are in debt. For instance, they're doing something for the public good, for the community, and they're in debt for that. We should help them. Or those people who took out a permissible loan, not someone who's in debt for something that's haram, Okay, then also it talks about the one that's in the path of Allah, like engaged in jihad. Then that should be, of course, we know, under an authorized Islamic ruler. Like, no one could just take jihad in their own hands and be a maverick and be like, I'm fighting for God. And then, nah, you can't get nothing. All right. So that was basically it for zakat. So now we'll cover this week, inshallah. So we'll go back to the text. Any questions before we continue?
No.
All right. You know what I find interesting about the zakat?
Oh,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Dad.
Yeah. What I find interesting about the zakat is that, the Prophet ﷺ was just like the complete, he was sent by Allah, like any kind of monarchy or any kind of leadership, they will make sure that their families take care of, And, here zakat, the people who are Hashimi and Mutalibi, they can't receive zakat. This is the family of the Prophet ﷺ. They are not zakat eligible. Of course, they can get gifts and stuff like that, but as far as being eligible for zakat, but any kind of other leader of any kind of organization, who's the first one that they make sure they take care of?
Family.
Themselves and their family. They set things up, but this just shows that the Prophet ﷺ was sent with divine guidance, man. I just think that's interesting.
I just wanted to ask if anybody had got with the Sister Callie, you was in Atlantic City for where do we do the African American summit?
Yeah, Atlantic City.
Remember the brother that was talking about the finances? Did anybody ever get his information? And he was talking, the black brother, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, but
he was trying to do like a financial class about zakat and interest and how, like, investments and stuff, I think is what it was.
I have it. I just have to look for it, but I do have this card.
Because I think that's one of the major areas that Muslims miss when it comes to deen. We'll talk about the salat or Hajj or, fasting, but, Allah will question you about your wealth. And most of us don't know how to split it, spend it, give it, So it's like education is needed, inshallah, especially with the way that, like Fahim was saying, that we, are engaged and working. A lot of people, clock in and out, filing income taxes, that you can't ignore that or let it get past you. So, but mashallah, if anybody has this information, and maybe we could try to, I don't know, set up something the next event, the next time the imams get together to chat. Y'all don't see my hand moving right now, but I'm moving my hand, I'm waving it like the next time the black imams get together, maybe they can.
Yeah, you're taking shots at us, but this is not the place for it. You need to get on the broadcast and do all that.
Mashallah.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Don't come for sis like that. She's trying to give us
right.
stuff.
It's fine.
For sure.
Gotta come home. Yeah, folks gotta come home. It's all right.
Of course, it's fine.
It's okay. It's absolutely.
Yeah, it's got an audience today, so
Mashallah.
All right, let's go to the next part of the text.
Wow.
Okay. Who wants to read that part?
I can read it. I just got. I'm gonna find the card. I'll look for it. I thought it was right at hand, but I'll read. I'll start. This is Hajj, right?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay.
Yes.
So now we're at the section of Hajj, inshallah.
Okay. So we're doing a PowerPoint for this today, right?
Yeah, after we just read this little section.
Oh, okay. Very well. All right. Bismillah. Hajj. Hajj is the fifth of the pillars of Islam. It is an obligatory on every free, legally responsible.
Obligation.
Obligation. Thank you. Reading is fundamental. Riff. It is an obligation on every free, legally responsible mukallaf Muslim, as is the Umrah, once in one's life, on condition that one has the ability to go. Ability here means that one possesses what is needed to travel for the pilgrimage and back again, and payment for all the expenses of those he is legally obliged to support until his return. The acts of the Hajj are of three types: the integral elements, arkan, the duties, wajibat, and the sunan. The arkan of the Hajj are five. Ikram, this is the intention. Ihram. This is the intention to perform the Hajj or the Umrah. It is preferred that one utters the words, "I intend to perform the Hajj or the Umrah, and I sanctify myself thereby for Allah the Exalted." It is not valid to enter Ihram for Hajj except in the Hajj months, which are Shawwal, Dhul Qadar, and the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, the last of which is dawn on the day of sacrifice, or the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. The remaining arkan are the standing at Arafat, the tawaf of ifada, the sa'i, and the shaving or cutting of the hair. The integral elements of the Umrah, they are the same as the arkan of the Hajj, with the exception of the standing at Arafat, which is not one of them. Tawaf and sa'i. Sa'i, you said?
Sa'i.
Sa'i. Necessary. Sa'i. Necessary for the tawaf are the covering of the awrah, the state of tahara, from things which invalidate it, and from najasa, and that the tawaf is 7 circles inside the mosque and keeping the house Kaaba on one's left, and that one is not actually inside the Kaaba. Okay, I understood that. Now I get it. The Sa'ya must be done 7 times, must be after the Tawaf, and must begin at Al-Safa and end at Al-Marwa.
Okay, so that's the part we'll cover today, inshallah. So we'll get to the PowerPoint. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Okay, let me get this.
Yo, cuz. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Okay. All right, so we'll start here, inshallah. All right, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
All right, so week 15, all right, we already started the review from last week, and we read up to the current section. All right, so we'll start with the Hajj. Okay, so Hajj, it linguistically means to head in a specific direction, and legally with the 5 pillars, it means to head for a specific set of rituals. All right, so Hajj means to make the pilgrimage to what is current day Saudi Arabia and Mecca to perform a set of rituals. All right, and we all know what the rituals are connected to, right? What story?
Hajar.
Yes, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and his wife Hajar. All right, and one of the things somebody reminded me of that I didn't mention before is that Hajar is buried there in Mecca. She's buried there in Mecca, and it's something because I don't know, because she was a black woman, they try to hide that, but that's just something for us, for us to know. All right, so and the Hajj is a Fard Ain, and who is it a Fard Ain on? He mentions in the book the one who is Mukallaf. All right. And here he says, even for the one, the obligation is on the one who is Mukallaf, but it is permissible for the ones who are not obligated to do it. And so if they say, for instance, if a child goes, or a slave goes, or anyone who else is not obligated to perform the Hajj, they can still do it and they will be rewarded for it, even though they're not obligated. All right, so that's the meaning of Hajj. All right, and then Umrah is the lesser pilgrimage, and it is also obligatory once in a lifetime as well. So the Hajj and the Umrah, they're at least in one's lifetime, and you don't necessarily have to make the Hajj before you make Umrah. You know, you don't necessarily, but both of them are obligatory at least once in a lifetime. You know, so there may be an instance where a person might not be able to make the Hajj, and they're only able to make the Umrah. Then they have an obligation to make the Umrah. All right. Any questions on that?
Can you say that one more time, the last part?
That a person may only be able to make the Umrah and not be able to make the Hajj, but both of them are obligatory in their lifetime. So say, for instance, if you only have the ability to make the Umrah and not the Hajj, then you should make the Umrah, you know. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them are obligations, though. All right, and there's other particulars that's beyond the pay grade of this lesson here. All right, so then he talked about the Istita, which is the ability. So a person has to have ability, as he mentioned in the text, to make the Hajj. So the first ability is the person, if they are able to do it themselves, and the second one is through someone else. So for instance, if you have the ability, what you mean the means to cover yourself and to cover the cost of the trip, and also to take care of the necessities you need during the trip, and also your family that you leave behind, then you have to do this obligation. But if you can do it through someone else, if you're not able to meet that as far as like physically. So the first type, as we said, is that person has their travel necessities, plane ticket, all that, front up, going there and back, and to maintain their stay during Hajj. So you have to in the Hajj season, you have to prepare with extra. You should
get
try.
some water.
Huh? Say it again.
That was me talking without my thing. I was talking to my daughter. I'm sorry. I thought my mute was on.
Okay, no worries. All right. Then the second type is for examples that people that may be bedridden, and so they can pay for someone to go on Hajj for them. And the one who is done for, they have to cover the expenses for that person to go on Hajj and or Umrah. And you can't do a Hajj or Umrah for someone else if you haven't done the obligation for yourself first. All right, so they will have to get someone else to do it if you haven't done it for yourself. And then with a person who dies before they perform Hajj and they had the ability, then someone should do it for them immediately. So say if someone died and they had the financial means to go, and they passed, then it should be arranged for their family that somebody can be chosen to go on their behalf. All right, any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Can I go to the next slide or?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So then the Sheikh mentions in the book 3 categories: the Arkan, the Wajibat, and the Sunan. So normally these terms are interchangeable when we talk about the other pillars, but then they have separate things when we talk about Hajj. So the Arkan is the plural of Rukn. Rukn means like a pillar or integral. And Arkan means the pillars or integrals. And that for Hajj, that these integrals or these Arkan, they must be present or the Hajj is not valid. That all of these have to be present or the Hajj is not valid. All right. And so that's a little different from, for instance, we pray in Salat and Zakat and stuff like that. All right. And the Wajibat is the plural of Wajib. You know what Wajib means?
Obligatory.
Yeah. So here, if some of the Wajibat are mentioned, and that's what we're going to cover the Wajibat and the Sunan in next week's class. But today, we're going to cover just the Arkan. So, and with the Hajj, that the Wajibat, they should be present. And if not, if you're missing any of the Wajibat, the Hajj is still valid, but an expiation should be made, like the slaughtering of a sheep and, donated to the poor. All right. And then the sunan, which is the plural of sunnah, are the recommended acts of the Hajj. And even if they are not done, because if they're recommended, the Hajj will still be valid. All right. So he's going to discuss the arkan, the wajibat, and the sunan. But in this week's class, we're just going to do what the arkan is. All right. Any questions on that?
No, but I have a sidebar question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if if the class is okay with it, like when it, because I like when you go over, I know we don't always have time, it's like it's on, but like if there's like days where everybody is in agreement, like when we go over it, like you know how you always go back and then you ask questions, that's very helpful for me. So
Okay.
if there's like a day where we can just like go like extend over the 12 o'clock to do that every once in a while.
Okay. Well, this is the plan. We'll be completing the book, doing the lesson, and then I'm going back through the book each section
Okay.
with more notes. And then after that, we're going to go through the book and make sure that you have it. So, yeah, but we could do that still as we go, you know.
Okay.
But you know, as you notice, we read through the text from the beginning every single week because I want you to be familiar with it. So when we complete the book, you'll be able to orally, you know, say this book, and you know, because it's going to be like a mock giving da'wah. Like you know, you're going to explain to me, you know, the book, the title, the author, what is the subject matter, the pillars, and you should be able to do that in an oral presentation. So, you know, I'm talking about, you know, articulate.
Right.
All right.
Understood.
Okay. Any questions on?
No.
Okay. Okay. So then he talks about the 5 arkan of making the Hajj. All right. So the 5 arkan, the first one is the ihram he mentioned. And here, when he talking about the ihram, he's not talking about the garments that you put on. He's talking about the ihram, the intention to enter the Hajj. So, you know, you have to make a specific intention to make Hajj, you know. And the intention, of course, is in the heart. And the verbalizing the intention is recommended, just like we said in the Salah. You know, you make the niyyah in your heart, but to make it more, what's the word we use when we talked about the Salah? That it helps the mind and the heart to connect together by saying it. It helps to strengthen the niyyah. All right. So then the second one, he says the standing at Arafat. And so the standing of Arafat, so Arafat is like the pinnacle of the Hajj. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that Arafat is Hajj. So Arafat is the essence of Hajj when you go there and stand in that area. And the arkan or the integral of it is that you have to be at least present at the grounds of Arafat. So many times people, they make Arafat and they think they have to go to the top of Arafat, and that's not necessary. Just being on the ground in the precincts of Arafat, that is part of the arkan. Also being in the state of ihram. So the state of ihram here is meaning when you have your garments on, you put the 2 pieces of cloth on. And the time of Arafat is from the zawal. So when the zenith is on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah up until Fajr of the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, which is the day of Eid. So the 10th of Dhul Hijjah is the day of Eid. All right. And so from that time is the time you can go stand at Arafat. And even if you're being present there for a moment, that's enough to be considered as standing at Arafat. All right. And as we mentioned the week before, the details of Hajj is something that you study when you're going to go. I mean, we talk about it in general, but if you would make the intention to make Hajj, then you have to know all these particulars in detail. But as of now, you know, since it's a once in a lifetime, you know, obligation, you're not obligated to know them until you need to know them.
So question.
Huh?
Because the Umrah is the lesser, is it the same or no?
The Umrah is the lesser Hajj?
Yeah, but do you have to go through the same process of learning how to do it and all of that?
Yeah, because Umrah is still an obligation. All right, we're going to cover some of that part. So the 5 arkan is ihram, which here means intention, standing at Arafat. The tawaf is to go around the Kaaba 7 times, and the time is from the middle of the night of the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. So that is called the Laylatul Nahr. All right. So the night before the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, that is the time where you can do the tawaf, you know. So some of these things you do at different times, you know. And you go around the Kaaba 7 times. The Sa'yu is actually the Sa'yu is covering the distance between Safa and Marwa 7 times. So these one more. And the halq is the shaving the head. So in the Shafi school is minimum of 3 hairs, but the best way is for men to shave their entire heads, and for women is to trim their hair. All right. So these are the 5 arkan that for a person to make Hajj, they have to have all of these things. These are integrals of it. And remember, we said the arkan that if a person doesn't have any of these, then their Hajj is not valid. All right. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any
So you
questions?
said for the Shafi school for men, you said it's a minimum of 3 hairs?
Yeah, in the event that, you know, for any reason that a person can't shave their whole head, to meet the obligation is a minimum of 3 hairs.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's better to shave the entire head.
Okay.
So, you know, in these issues of fiqh, they try to cover all of the ground. So for instance, like we mentioned in the last one in Zakat, they covered about like you know, if you find a buried treasure or gold mining, you know, those things are not really relevant today, but in case it comes up, you know, then there's a rule for it. So in case something comes up with someone for maybe a medical condition or anything, you know, they might not be able to shave their head, then they can get by with just a minimum of 3 hairs.
Okay, inshallah.
All right. All right. And then what he didn't mention here in the book is to tartib. So in order. So, you know, you can't just go to run between Safa and Marwa and you don't have your ihram. So here it says the ihram before everything else. And the Arafah should be before the tawaf and the halq. But in some instances, the sa'i, the running can be done before Arafah, but after tawaf. So there's a little play there. But when we do it in order, you know, the first and foremost thing is that you have to have ihram. You know, so it's similar to when you pray, you have to have wudu, and when you pray, when you offer wudu, you do them in a certain order. All right. All right. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then he talks about the Arcane of Umrah. All right. So as we know, the Hajj is an obligation, so is Umrah. And so the Arcane of Umrah are the same as Hajj, except for standing at Arafah. That's the only thing you don't have to do when you make Umrah, because Arafah is part of the Hajj, all right? And it must be done in order. So it's different from Hajj. Some of those things that we talked about, the Tawaf, the Sa'i, and the Halq, they can be done at different times within those time frames. But when you make Umrah, you have to do them in order. So you have to have the ihram, you have to do the tawaf, then the sa'i, and then the cutting of the hair. All right.
Mhm.
And then the necessity for tawaf for Umrah is that these have to be in place for you to make the tawaf for Umrah. So here he talks about the tawaf for Umrah and the sa'yu of Umrah. For the tawaf is that you have to have your aura covered, you have to be in wudu, and you have to be, you know, minor and major najasa you have to be free from. All right. So for instance, if you're doing tawaf and you break your wudu, then you have to go and make wudu over, you know, and the scholars say that you can kind of start where you finish that. Like, you don't when you're doing the tawaf, you don't have to start all over. You start where you finish, where you were, like far as the number of times. Then the tawaf is with the Kaaba on your left, so it's basically counterclockwise. When you go around the Kaaba, when you're making a tawaf, it'll be on your left side, you know. So if you're going in the circular motion, you know, that would be counterclockwise. And that you should start from the black stone. So this is in the Shafi school. I think it's different in other schools. You should start from the black stone and then make your 7. What's the English word they use for tawaf?
Circumambulation.
Yes, circumambulation. We need to make a list of some of those words that we use in English for Islam, but we normally don't use. Like one we always make a joke of about supererogatory prayers, the nafil prayers, supererogatory, not derogatory, supererogatory. Start from the black stone, and then he mentions in the book that you should have the intention for tawaf, and meaning here is that when you're making tawaf, you should be totally concentrated on it and not thinking about other things like, you know, somebody stole something, because, you know, you're talking about millions of people when you're doing Hajj and even Umrah, you know. So try to make sure that your focus is on making the circumambulation. And then the necessity for the sa'yu or for Umrah is 7 times, making sure that the entire distance is between the two. And then also starting from Safa and not, okay, you know, you have to start from Safa between Marwa. So that's 1 time. Then going back is 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. So it's not like you start from Safa and Marwa and then come back and then that's 1. So, you know, some people think that you're supposed to do it like 14 times. No, but it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one, when we talk about Hajj, there are 3 types of Hajj. So this is just for, you know, information. So the 3 types of Hajj, and of course there's some, you know, you should know. There's the Ifrad, the Tamattu, and the Qiran. All right. The Ifrad is when you enter the state of Ihram for Hajj, and then you do the Umrah at a later point in the year. So this is like doing the Hajj and the Umrah with the intention. That's what you would do. So you would come and you would enter the state of Ihram, and once you enter the state of Ihram, all of those other things that you have to do and other things that are forbidden to do when you're in the state of Ihram. So this is, and you have to make that intention in one of those times that we mentioned.
Now wait, is it a certain time you have to complete it? You say you enter into Ihram for Hajj, and then you complete the Umrah at a later time. Is there
these
a time
different Hajj? Sometimes they depend on what part of the world you live in. Like, you know, for instance, you live close by, or if you're in Saudi Arabia or the Hijaz, you know.
Right.
So it varies. So for instance, like if you enter the state of Ihram for Hajj, then you won't do some of those acts that are connected with the Umrah. You know, so you just do strictly Hajj, and then you can do the Umrah at a later point.
At a later point. Okay.
So you're not doing them at the same time.
At the same time, right.
All right. Then Tamattu is to start with the Umrah and then enter the Ihram for Hajj. So this is the most common type for people who come from outside of you know, the Hijaz. So most people, like when we go on Hajj groups, this is how you go. You make Umrah first, and then you enter the Ihram for Hajj. And then there's a third type, which is called Qiran. So it's doing Hajj and Umrah at the same time. So some of the things that you do, they will overlap, you know, and that's when you need to know what is obligatory, what is sunnah, stuff like that. So the Tamattu is the one that we normally people do coming from like the West. All right. And then it says the intentions, he mentioned in the book about the intentions, they should be made in the month of Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, and Dhul Hijjah for Hajj. So those when you make those intentions that you're going for Hajj. And that's different from when you're actually trying to like get the money to go. All right. So that's another intention. So you make dua, oh Allah, bless me with the means to make Hajj. that can be done anytime. But when you actually making a specific intention to make Hajj, it starts in Shawwal, which you know is the month after Ramadan. All right. Then also, if you don't do it in Shawwal, you can do it in Dhul Qa'dah, or you can actually do it in the month of Dhul Hijjah. So this would probably apply to someone who lives in the area. You know, they don't have to wait. They don't have to do it in Shawwal. But, you know, for us, maybe it's good to make our intention in those months. So when you make it for specifically for Hajj, it should be done at those times. And if not, then that would make it it would make it an Umrah trip. All right. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right, so we'll go back over this, but these are the three types of Hajj, and you know, depending on where you come from in the world, inshallah. Okay, let's see what we got here. I'm supposed to start that. All right, so we'll review this a little next week, and then we'll go to the other part about the wajibat of the Hajj and the sunan of the Hajj. All right. Is there any questions now? Yeah, we're a little over the hour mark.
No.
Okay, so as we mentioned, Hajj is something that you'll go into detail more when you make the intention to make it. So, you know, if we ever make the intention and we ask Allah to give us a means to go, inshallah, you know, start studying details. And most, you know, now you can't go unless you go with a group. You know, before you used to can go make Hajj, like, you know, you can go by yourself as long as you had everything in place, you know. That was prior to 9/11. You know, a couple of my teachers, they used to go like every year, and they called it the Boy Scout Hajjes, you know. Like they would just go and, you know, post up in the over in Mecca, you know, without really paying for no expensive hotels and stuff like that. And because I think now the Hajj is about maybe between like 8 and 10 grand for a single person.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to cover that cost, and then you got to cover the cost to maintain your family while you're gone. And I think that, you know, most people the Hajj package.
And that's about what, 3 weeks? You say 2
Yeah,
weeks?
because it's about 3 weeks. Because most when you're doing the Hajj Tamatur, you're doing the Umrah and the Hajj, and then a lot of times they're doing the you know, they like a little tour. I think they stop at other countries. So it's like, it's a once in a lifetime deal. So you like make the most of it, you know?
Yep.
So, and
That
you know,
a
we
giant
saw,
shirt?
huh?
Threw
Say it
me
again?
off just now, sis. So is that a
What you
giant? I'm
say?
sorry.
You
No,
said
go ahead,
what?
brother. What was
We're
you?
talking about something
Clarify.
off
What you
topic. We're not going.
Clarify.
We're in
What
class
you
right
say?
now. Y'all can argue about that
Go ahead.
later.
What you said?
You
It
you
just threw
asking
me
about
off.
my giant
Mashallah.
shirt?
No, I was
You asking
trying to concentrate on what he was saying, and then
The
and
giant
I
all
couldn't.
just came out of nowhere.
this beautiful blue get in your face.
Inshallah.
All right, so getting back to the topic, what were we saying?
And these right here. And these right here. Don't forget these.
What are those? They look
Okay.
like, what are they, pillars?
The
Oh, the championship. Alhamdulillah.
yeah, don't forget about that.
What I was going to say, oh yeah, we used to always have this thing like, okay, man, you know, we can't, and I think some people understood this. Oh, I don't have money to make Hajj, so I can't go to like Jamaica or somewhere like that. But then I start thinking like, man, you know, a Jamaica trip is way cheaper. A trip to the DR, you know, like, you know, Allah knows, you know what I mean? So I gotta go on, because we be like, man, don't go on no vacation unless you make Hajj. But man, listen, you're going on a little weekend getaway ain't that much, but going to Hajj, woo. You know, so may Allah make a way for us, inshallah.
I mean.
Okay. All right, so we'll continue next week. So did we have any questions or anything?
No.
Just off the record, can you all make dua for my grandchildren? Like they're really going through it right now for the loss of their father, and it's to the point I think they need counseling because there's a lot of breakdowns. So just as you know, my family, I like to ask y'all to do that for me, please.
Of course.
Yeah.
Done deal. MashaAllah.
As a case manager and a child advocate, I would say 100% get them into therapy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, inshallah, we put the word out for the Muslims too, and at large to make dua.
Thank
We ask Allah to give you ease during that time, and as also the children.
I mean,
All right. So, any other questions related to the class or off topic? Y'all took a couple off topic shots, so we might as well.
right, off topic. I mean, the Giants. So
that wasn't off
nothing else to
topic.
say.
That was, first of all, there should be rules in class about distractions. That's number one.
Well, we
Let's
talk
get the
about
rules up on the board.
Well, we talk about distraction when you make it to what? The concentration should be on when you make a Hajj. This other stuff is, y'all can talk about that offline.
You said off topic or not. So
yeah, but tell them who your team is, honey.
Mind you, don't be talking
okay.
about my personal business. Listen, we're talking about class.
Oh, nice. Okay, I got it.
Who's your team? Who's your team,
So
sis?
listen.
Now she's switching up to
First of all, I have a public service announcement. I have always been a Washington Redskins fan.
So what's their new name?
The Commodores.
Yeah,
their new name is the Commodores. Since my father passed, reluctantly, I'm an honorary Eagles fan, and it's only on the strength of my pops. MashaAllah. Wasn't for him, I'll be talking a different type of, trash right now, but
yeah, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Allah is the changer of hearts.
Go Commodores.
What does the hadith say? Allah changes the heart.
He can change the heart. Right here. Just go ahead. Come on to the other side. Come to the other side.
We'll make dua for you, inshallah, and the kids and the babies, inshallah.
Oh, Allah, change the Commodores back to the Redskins.
Right, that part.
All right, inshallah, we'll end there. May Allah bless you all, and inshallah, we'll see you next week.
Shukran for class.
Afwan. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.